All right, welcome back to the Sioux City Show. This is episode 18. I am in the studio today with Rosario Perez AKA Rev, and we're doing things a little bit differently today. He's going to be doing the interviewing, and I'm going to be the guest, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. This is going to be the last episode of 2018, so I posted my first episode on January 1st, 2018, so I guess this is like the year in review of year number one.
This
and
is cool.
I'm feeling good about episode 18 too, because the loose goal was one a month, so I feel like I beat that a little bit.
You exceeded that, bro.
Yeah, I had
Almost
some like crazy guests that I never expected on. You know, I had like a J.D. Schulten twice throughout the campaign process, which I felt pretty good about.
J.D. Schulten's my boy, man.
Yeah,
that is cool, man. Yeah, so you know, I reached out to you a bit back about wanting to do this. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to do some like podcasty type stuff anyways, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You're super good, right? For the most part at interviewing these people on this show. You're decent.
I have
you're
my
decent.
ups and downs,
Yeah, for sure. You're human. You have your ups and downs, like you said.
Half the time I listen back and I listen to myself going, yep. And I'm like, Jesus, stop it, Taylor. Yeah.
I think that's just human nature, man. I catch myself doing that all the time.
Right.
It's, yep. Mm-hmm,
well, it's the right thing to do when you're having a conversation with somebody where you like
acknowledge
actually are keeping it going, you know. But when you're doing the audio interviews, you might want to try to keep that stuff to a minimum. Also, I need to say this is that we have Jay Medina, aka the Psychedelic Sidekick, in here producing for us. He's been helping out on the last few episodes.
Jack of all trades, that guy.
Yeah, Jack of all trades, sick rapper. Check him out on YouTube.
He's on
Apple Music, Spotify.
You're all over the place now. He's got this great album he just released very recently called Jay's in My Ashtray, right? There's a feature on there by yours truly.
Oh, yeah.
Is it the only feature on the album? That's the only feature on the album? It's pretty dope, man.
I love it.
I've been saying this for a long time, though. Not to, like, go off record or anything. Psychedelic Sidekicks, man, that's the shit. Yep. That's the dude, man.
About to go platinum with one feature.
Oh,
J. Cole style.
That's all me, boy.
J. Cole Jr. Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome. I'll bless your track any day of the week, man. So, anyways, back to the topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this Sioux City Show for, like you said, a year now, right?
Right.
It wasn't always the Sioux City Show, right? How did you get started? I remember in high school, you had some videos on YouTube, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Right? For those of you who don't know, just to touch base, I've known Taylor for a little bit now, right?
Right.
A couple years or so.
Yeah. 10 years probably.
10 years.
It's been.
No, it's been over 28.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. We were probably 10.
Yeah.
10 years old.
Real young.
Yeah. So 18 years, almost 2 decades.
That's crazy.
Put in some real time.
Life's weird, man.
I like it.
Heck yeah. No. So how did you get started?
So I got started like with the whole content media thing. It's recording. I just checked it. In high school, like I got, it was like right when YouTube came out. I think YouTube launched in 2006, so we would have been sophomores in high school when YouTube came out, and it was like right at the beginning of the whole social media deal. I think Facebook was still at the time where you needed a .edu email address to even have a Facebook account, and you had to be able to like choose what school you go to, and remember when they rolled out like the high schools, so dude. Like, oh shit, Sergeant Bluff got added, we can all have Facebook now. So it was kind of a hot time in social media history, I guess. And I got I got a camera for Christmas because I'd been using my parents' camera trying to like film little like basically rip off Jackass videos with my friends, and
like you do in Iowa.
Exactly. And so then I got a camera for Christmas, I think, one year, and it was just like a cheap mini DV camera where it had the tapes in it, and you had to like hook up a cord and play the tapes back to get them into your computer, and then you could upload that to YouTube. So, and I spent a lot of time grounded in high school because I wasn't really with the schoolwork, and so I spent most of the nights I was grounded, like sitting in front of a computer learning how to edit videos and all that, and putting stuff on YouTube. And I had like some stupid viral videos in the early days of YouTube, and viral at the time at like 100,000 views. And
right, yeah, we touched base on this a little bit off camera, just how different going viral is now compared to what going viral meant 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Going viral, 1 million views, I don't even know if that constitutes viral anymore.
Yeah, it's like tough to even justify that. And at the time, like, okay, so I made a music video we used somebody else's song, and like I made a music video for it with my friends. It was for the Lonely Islands, We Like Sports. And at the beginning of the music video, like there's a part where there's a phone call in it, and we actually used my phone calling one of the dudes in the music video's phone, and like I tried to chop out my number, but it kind of ended up in there. So for like the next 6 months, I got like 3 calls a day that were like, "Hey, is this the people from the music video? Oh my God, we love your music video." And I was like, "Oh shit, this is what celebrity feels like."
Right, a little bit of you was like, "Hell yeah, it is."
Yeah, and I think that video like all together ended up doing like maybe 200,000 views, but like it was crazy at the time, right? And
well, high school,
yeah, it was high
that.
school, and it was like it was not anything near the video quality that like you have for a couple $100 today. It was like very clearly a home video,
right?
Yeah.
Flip phone,
yeah.
Type good. Well, I guess at this point you had a camera.
But yeah, but it was still
even
like
then,
it was still pretty shitty. It doesn't hold up at all to like even what somebody can do on their cell phone today. And so like I kind of got started, wanted to keep doing that, and like when it came time to I guess graduate and go to college, I didn't want to go to college at all, but like
who does?
Yeah, I joined the military, so I kind of like I had the GI Bill, so I figured I might as well go to college if I can go for basically free.
Absolutely.
And so I like started looking at what schools in Iowa had film degrees, and the University of Iowa had what was called cinema and comparative literature, and I was like, cool, I'll do that. And then all my friends were going to Iowa too, so we like all moved into a house together and did that whole deal. But
is that where the whole Benzies thing kicked off? Was that
like that? I mean,
college?
So like it was like always like in high school there was like Benzie, like a group of friends basically with a name. And then when we went to college. So first of all, the cinema degree at the University of Iowa is like a film theory degree. I didn't even learn video production at the University of Iowa, so I was like, shit. But I was going for free, so I was like, I'm gonna ride this out. I guess I have a film theory degree, so I figured I'd always like teach myself production further on down the line. Like we didn't even like get access to cameras when we were there, so I kind of had to teach it all on my own later. But we'll put a pin in that. And when I went to Iowa, that's when like I learned the possibilities of like making things cool and hyping up like a concept and getting other people outside of like your friend group excited about what you're doing, right? So we lived in, like I said, it was like 8 people that I went to high school with, that we went to high school with, that all lived in like a house together, plus a couple other dudes were in and out. And it was called the Benzie House, and like we got like to the point where we were throwing parties every weekend, and there was huge parties like where it was like 300 or 400 people would come to the party throughout the night, and we'd like have 5 kegs because we were all in the military, so we all had signing bonuses, and the signing bonuses were $20,000. So
God
like give a house full of 18-year-old dudes like $100,000 cash and see how that's spent, right? And so we'd have like these crazy parties, and it was like to the point where like if you got into a cab and told the cab driver like, hey, we want to go to the Benzie House, like they knew where it was. It was like a business basically, So we were throwing these big parties, and like we started printing merch, and I'd go walk downtown, find the t-shirt printing shop, get like 50 t-shirts printed up, take them back to our house, and we'd sell them out that night. And I was like, oh shit, so we can like actually move like some product. Like there's a way to monetize this, not only like selling cups to get into our kegger, but we can also have like people wearing our t-shirts and then giving us money for it and repping us outside of this. And like these were people that we didn't know, like they were just people that thought that like, oh, it's cool to have t-shirts from this house. So like that kind of led into this whole deal where me and 3 of the guys that I was friends with, lived there with, still friends with, like Jake Thomas, Jerry Shoemaker, Levi Maxfield.
Widespread Threads.
Yeah,
man.
we started Widespread Threads because we were all involved in the entrepreneurship program at Iowa, which is like pretty sick. And it was a charitable clothing company. So what we did, it was basically the Tom Shoes models, but with t-shirts, where for every t-shirt we sold, we'd give another one to a kid in need. And we quickly learned that the t-shirt game is like not one that you want to be in if you're making money, just because at $5 per t-shirt, you got 4 people involved in a company, you got to sell like, I don't know, like 100 t-shirts a day to like really make money. Yeah, it's just not really like the industry you want to be in. But like again, it was like just a kind of a proof of concept that we could like do something, make a business, and like make it cool and make a brand out of it and move it forward and get other people excited about it, which like we really did accomplish.
You guys were great at that. And not to make like you touched base, you guys were young, right?
Yeah.
College kids.
We were 21, 22 at the time. So like we were hustling too. Like we were.
Widespread Threads was the shit.
Oh yeah,
My goodness, I remember you guys had a like a launch party in Sioux City.
Yep.
At I don't remember the name.
Well,
of the bar.
we had party at Chesterfield's, and we had a party at I think we had the like Sioux City launch party at the Warrior Bar in Sergeant
There
Bluff.
you go. Yep, the Warrior Bar.
And we packed it that night. We had 35th and Taylor play,
Yep.
and so it was a big night. Like slinging T-shirts out at these pop-up stands, and that's basically like where we found our market at. Is like we were like we can do these shows. We can get because we had like all these friends that were musicians doing dope shit, and we'd throw shows, have a concert, have a fashion show at the concert, and it was really cool. Like we were doing it in Iowa City where we'd like rent out the Blue Moose and make all our money back on the show, plus keep some for ourselves.
Money,
and
yeah,
the airliner in Sioux City or in Iowa City, and we were like kind of killing it without making money, I guess. Like as far as getting a brand out there, we're doing pretty damn well. And we were all young, so like we had the time for guerrilla marketing in like the truest form, where basically the whole concept of the company was like do good shit.
Yeah,
and that's
beautiful concept.
that's like what we'd have like these meetings, like how can we do some dope shit for other people, and we'd like have these what we'd call whack attacks, which were random acts of kindness out in the Whack attacks. It was whack attacks. It was widespread acts of kindness, but it was like random acts of kindness, basically. Somebody else had already copyrighted whack attacks, so we had to switch it up. And like what these would consist of is we might go out and like walk around downtown Iowa City, find all of the expired parking meters, and throw a quarter in it, and just like make sure that nobody got tickets that day. Or we'd during finals time, like we'd go to the library with like boxes and boxes of snacks and drinks and stuff and pass them out to everybody studying for finals. And then like the thing that we were most proud of is basically the 1-for-1 t-shirts. Is for every t-shirt we'd sell, we'd give another one away to a underprivileged kid. And I like literally cannot remember the name of the school district, but I want to say it was Perry, Iowa, and they have like a back to school backpack drive for like all the kids in the community who are like on like the free or reduced lunch, and and basically where they give them a backpack filled with school supplies and have them set up for the year. And they have like a big drive where it's like over 200 kids all qualify for the program. And we set it up with the school district that year that we went down there with like 200 t-shirts and made sure that like we could hook up like every kid going back to school with some new clothing. And like that was kind of like the pinnacle of it. We also did the same thing for every kid that was at the Iowa Children's Hospital at the time in Iowa City, and there's a orphanage in Haiti where we put clothes on the backs of like every single kid staying at the orphanage. So like we were doing like some really cool shit that I'm actually super stoked about like to this day.
No, great shit, especially being that age, man. You don't see a lot of college kids starting new business ventures like that with a charitable goal in mind, right? A lot of it's making money, which making money is great, but when you can throw that charity aspect into it, it's pretty neat.
I agree. And actually like it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to keep going to school. Like I just want to like make businesses. And so I dropped out. And I was like, I was going through like a really bad round of depression, and I was like, I'm just not feeling this anymore. I don't want to be here. I would deployed in 2012, so I would have been like 22 when I deployed to Kuwait, Afghanistan. And like when I went back to college, I just did not want to be there. Like I went from being in Afghanistan in November to January, I was back in college, and I think I dropped out in March. I was like, I'm done with it, Right. And so when I dropped out, I went back to Sioux City, and I can't remember how it worked right now, but basically like my sister's band 35th and Taylor had just started making like a little bit of a buzz. So I was like, we should make music videos. So I like decided, I have a film theory degree. I can tell people I have a film degree, but I really don't.
Film theory.
And I was like,
Big difference, man.
I was like, but I think I can figure out how to make dope music videos. So I like did all the research, figured out what camera I should get, figured out like what I needed to make a music video, and I basically like went around, borrowed money from borrowed a couple $100 here and there from like everybody who could spare a couple $100, and like pre-sold a couple music videos to other people and shit. And I was like, I'm gonna figure, and everybody I borrowed money from, I'm like, I'm gonna pay you back in 6 months. and I bought it because it was like $3,000 that I
Right.
ended up like borrowing all together for a camera and all the equipment I needed. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make videos. I'm going to be a content creator, a photographer, and I'm going to figure out how to do dope shit. And ended up making the music video for my sister, and like I made a music video for you right when I was starting out.
You did.
Did a little bit of things here and there, and started looking at jobs in Sioux City, and I started working at a news station. I'm not going to name any names, but I was like working because it was the only job where like it was like a video focused job in Sioux City. Like
You've got that film theory degree, so you
yeah.
obviously
Well,
knew you
I
guys
still
that.
hadn't. I still didn't
you
have a
hadn't had
degree
that
at this
yet.
point. But this is the crazy thing is when I dropped out of college, I was 1 credit short of a college degree. Like literally 119 out of 120 credits.
Dang.
So I basically had a degree, and I didn't lie or anything on my resume. I was like almost completed, and I was like gonna go back to school at WIT or whatever. But that was it. Oh, so actually, I take that back. I didn't get a job at the news station right away. I signed up for classes at WIT because I worked an entire summer at the base in Sioux City, pouring concrete, and I was like, shit,
Beautiful.
I don't know. I don't think I'm the smartest dude in the world, but I think I'm a little bit smarter than having to pour concrete when it's 105 degrees outside and like 90% humidity in Iowa. So I'm like, I can find another way to make money than this. So I've like signed up for college at the end of this long ass workday, and went back. WIT at the time had an independent filmmaking program, which was insane. Like they had the camera that I saved up borrowed all this money and saved up a bunch of money to buy this Canon 5D Mark III. Like they had like 6 of them in the program. They had $25,000 lens kits. They had like everything you could dream of for making movies. Like you could make a full-on feature-length film out of their equipment. And they had like 10 kids in the program, and it was freshmen kids at WIT. So like nobody even cared about like the equipment there. So I just like showed up. I went and talked to the teacher, and he's like, yeah, we have all this equipment. I was like, I'm going to take a full course load because I still had enough credits through my GI Bill to be able to like give me a little bit of a financial backing on it.
Right.
And so I went to college and took my last semester and ended up getting my degree there. But so like I had all the access to the equipment that I could ever need, and was really like able to sit down with the teacher at the time. I was like 26 years old. So he was fresh out of college, and he would sit down with me, and like every question I had when I was working on my projects outside of class, he could like sit down with me and like walk me through how to do it on the editing program and all that. And I was using Final Cut Pro at the time, but it's trash. If you're gonna get into editing, use Adobe Premiere.
Premiere.
Yeah, Adobe Premiere. And
Shout out. Hook the boy up.
so it was I got my teeth cut there video editing, and I felt like I was the shit coming out of that program, and I was wrong. I went to look up jobs in Sioux City where I could use like, oh, I make film or I make videos. Like we should make dope videos, and I looked it up, and it was basically like, oh, you can work at a news station being a production assistant, which is basically an editor on for the newscast, and you run the cameras during the actual broadcast. But I was working the midnight to 8 a.m. shift.
Horrible.
And like I was at the station that paid the most in Sioux City, and they paid $10 an hour for an overnight shift. Wow. And like, yeah, and I was still in the military. Dude, that's it's rough. And like I was still in the military at the time, so like I knew what I'd just gone from like my landscaping job where I was making like over $20 an hour, and I was like, I guess I want to be a video creator, so I guess I got to take a job in video.
Start somewhere.
Yeah, right. And so I started at but the blessing was that from day one, I knew I didn't want to be there. So I knew I didn't want to keep doing that. Where like a lot of people get into a job, and like unfortunately, I think that people are like so ready to buy into like any system at a job that they work at that they're like, okay, well this is my job. Like I'm gonna move up through this place, and I'm gonna
make a career out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go from editor to the director to the producer to the and then I'm gonna move to a bigger market, and then I'm gonna work for $15 an hour. And it's like, no, don't do that. Just find a way out of this. Find a way to leverage this into something else. So I was there. I was working overnights, and I got to the point where I was like pretty slick at editing. Like I could get what could take 5 hours, I was getting it done in about 2.5, 3 hours. So I had a bunch of time to like figure out other stuff, and I was like, I'm not gonna just sit here all night wasting my time. So I was listening to podcasts, and there's this dude, Gary Vaynerchuk, who was talking about like the concept of creating content for social media, and like everybody can become their own brand, and like the future of business marketing is on social media. TV commercials are dead. You know, all basically everything has come true now, but this was 2015. So I like drew up this whole business plan about like I can make at the time the whole deal was like a BuzzFeed-esque social media platform, like a social media content hub that was Sioux City focused content, because I was like, you know, you could use that for promotion, you can use that to sell to advertisers, and nobody's doing anything like it. Nobody's making like Sioux City focused social
especially
content.
not in Sioux City.
Yeah, and especially at the time, right? So I went to a radio station with the business plan, and basically like pitched my business plan to them, and they were like, cool, I like it, can you start tomorrow? And I was like, I gotta quit my job, so like, can I start in 2 weeks? And they were like, yeah. And I had the relationship with the radio station beforehand, because I'd been freelancing for them like the whole summer before, doing videotaping concerts for them. So like I was working midnight to 8 a.m. and then I'd get off at 8, and I just like started living with my girlfriend, so I was trying to spend as much time with her as possible. So I'd try and sleep like while she was at work. And so I'd get off work at 8 a.m., then try and fall asleep by like 10, usually noon. But then I'd wake up at 5 p.m. every day.
Right.
And so I was only sleeping like 5 or 6 hours every night. And it was brutal. It was like the worst time of my life, actually, because that sleep schedule is just horrendous.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, just how difficult it was to balance that work-life relationship, especially when you're working, 19 hours a day.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like, and I wasn't getting paid anything, so I was poor, had a horrible sleep schedule. I was always tired, and like on the weekends, I didn't want to be up all night. I wanted to be like out with my girlfriend during the day and doing like regular human stuff. So I'd like completely flip my sleep schedule during the weekend, and then like pretty much every Sunday I'd pull an all-nighter. Like I'd wake up on Sunday morning at 10 or 11 in the morning, and then go to work at midnight and stay up until 8 a.m. the next day. And it was brutal. But then at the time, like I was also freelancing. So like I'd wake up at 5, right? But then like I'd usually have a job that I went to from like 6 to 9 p.m. and put in work, and then go home and chill a bit before I have to go to the news station to edit. Anyways, I leveraged that whole deal into presenting the radio station with the business plan. They put me on staff 2 weeks later, and I started working there, and 3 days later, their parent company acquired the digital marketing company in Sioux City, Chatterkick. And I was like, shit, yeah. Because like that was exactly what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to work in social media specifically.
Right, like Vaynerchuk had mentioned.
That's
the sort of the future.
Exactly.
Well, at that point,
yeah.
Where advertising and all marketing should be focused on at that point.
Exactly. So I took that. I went to Chatterkick, and like, when I said people like to buy into like programs at jobs and kind of like waste their own time and like give everything to a company that's not giving them much back. It was like I finally went to Chatterkick, and I was like, this is what my career is in, so I'm going to work my ass off at this. Like I want to make the coolest stuff possible for this company, like to make clients and like, build my portfolio, build like my skill set. And like that's what I really did, and Beth Trejo's the founder of the company. She runs it over there, and she like is like the best person to work for, because it's not a corporate office. Like when you have access to the person who built the whole company, like in an open door policy kind of deal, that was like the dream. So I kind of like really figured out how social media marketing, social media content works, working for them. And then I, after 2 years of working there, it got to the point where I like approached Beth, and I was like, hey, I think I want to start working for myself, but like I want to make sure that like this whole relationship is great about it.
The Chatterkick.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and she was great about it, and she was like, still like I do a bunch of jobs for them. She's like totally supportive of everything I do, and but yeah, she's like since then she's kind of given me all the advice I needed, and that's when I left there, that's when I started Honeywave Media, which is what exists today. And a lot of people just like see the Sioux City Show and the one take music videos, but that's like I always tell people what what is publicly posted on the Honeywave Media page is like 2% of the 100% pie that I actually do like for work wise. 98% of what I do is like creating content for businesses for their social media platforms, and that can be anybody from like politicians to trucking companies to healthcare to like doctors' offices, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like come full circle that like the whole original concept of creating content for social media for businesses and making stuff that's Sioux City focused has like kind of come to fruition. But yeah, I mean, and like for the future, I just want to keep growing this, like the giving more people a platform, because I don't want every piece of content that gets released through Honeywave Media to be like me sitting down interviewing somebody, or like me shooting a music video. Yeah, and I mean, I've talked to you about like, you know, would you want to put together like a little show and you know, Jay and all that stuff. So
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen someday.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many opportunities, and like everybody's super busy, and you know, in Sioux City, nobody has like that the cushy job where yeah, I have an extra 30 hours a week to dedicate to shit. Like, I know that I'm always pressed for time. Like, time's my most valuable resource at this point. So, yeah.
Undoubtedly. Did you, you mentioned everything sort of coming full circle. Did you envision like Honeywave would become what it is today? Which is fantastic, by the way. Like you mentioned, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but you've also done some really great shit. Dad, I think honestly, that I hate to do this.
Go to work.
Yeah. Was that sort of a turning point for you?
You know, actually, like, okay, so that plays into a couple things I left out. Is like, when I was working at Chatterkick, I was also freelancing for myself, doing wedding videos and music videos, and like I had some big wins. You know, like I had the Dad music video, which that went like real viral. Really like even today, like I think it had 35 million views in a week, like between Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff, and like so I was like, shit, that's like as big as it can get, right? And then my 35th and Taylor also had their music video got selected to open for Bon Jovi, and like that's a music video I created, but I didn't make the song or whatever. So I'll take a little bit of the credit on that.
You take that credit.
I also submitted the application, so I take a lot of the credit for that.
I'd like to thank you on their behalf.
There you go. Thank you. And so like I had those two wins, and then actually I sent like this email to Gary Vaynerchuk, the dude who like inspired me,
you, right? Your inspiration
on all the social media stuff in the first place. And like basically the whole email was like, look, man, you inspired everything I do, and everything I've done, like video and my like theory on creating content is all based off of what you talked about on your podcast, and I think that I'd be perfect to come work for you. And like he responded back like, cool, great, yeah, let's take the meeting, yeah, come out here, let's see if a job is the right fit for you. And like again, I got borrowed the money to go take a trip to New York City and meet with him, and sat down, and unfortunately he was out of the country. So, but I met with this whole team.
I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, right. So I met with this whole team, and like they by the end of the meeting, they were like, cool, we can find a spot for you here. Like you got a job here. Like it's.
And how did that feel, dude? Just walk me through.
Dude,
mind you, this is a man who, I don't want to say he's responsible for what you're doing right now, but obviously a huge inspiration, a great influence. You sit down with his people, right? Some of his closest, team.
Oh man, I mean, it was like, doing what I do, like 90% of the shit I made when I was starting out was like either unpaid or like the
really cheap.
What I got paid was kind of a nominal fee, like, you know, like give somebody $40 or whatever for like some photo shoots or video. You know, it's like it's not really getting paid for what you're doing. It's just kind of like creating a transaction to like an honorary transaction, I guess. So, you know, I was like, and like I said, I was working overnights, and I had like shitty sleep schedule for a year and like all that kind of stuff. And it was at the end of it all, it was like, damn, I really did the thing that I set out to do at the beginning, right? They have offices in New York City, Nashville, and LA. And I was hoping to get like a job in Nashville, right?
Of course.
And their only creatives, or their creatives only work in New York City. And New York City is the worst. Some people might like it. I hated it. I hated it so much. Like I I don't have like social anxiety per se, but I surely don't like being in big crowds. In New York City, you better like being in big crowd. Yeah, right. So I was like, I really don't want to move in New York City, and like started looking at quality of life. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to move into a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, and my girl's gonna have to like get 2 jobs. I'm gonna have to work 2 jobs. I'm gonna, like just to be able to like afford living in New York City was like, I feel like I'm taking a big step back in my life if I go do this. Like, I mean, career-wise, it's an advancement, but like, it's gonna take me another 10 years of hustling to get like back to where I'm at in Sioux City. But I took the whole like job offer process as like, so I do have the juice to work for this company, like, so I can do it for myself here, right? And so like that kind of like seeded me starting to look at doing my own thing, and I started working for myself. Then I jump ahead on working for myself, and Vayner Sports, the one of their like companies underneath the umbrella, they do sports agent or sports. They're like a sports agency, and so for the Super Bowl last year in Minneapolis, I ended up doing a video shoot I worked for them, like doing personal branding for the Super Bowl, and like got to meet Gary Vaynerchuk there, and it was kind of all came together, I guess. I was like able to say like, hey, I was in your office, thanks a lot, that whole deal, and so it was cool, and that actually, I can't really talk about this, but like that whole coming back and working for Vayner Sports, getting involved with the whole system has like led into an opportunity that's like currently in the works right now that I'm really stoked about. So
the cog's still turning.
Yeah, like I mean I'm definitely not even close to like any type of a finish line right now. But like so the hustle's still going, but I'm at the point now where like the hustle's generating a little bit of revenue, and that's nice. Yeah. So but as far as like the whole starting, it kind of has come full circle in terms of like a whole concept and thinking that I could do it, and like the industry straight up did not exist. When I started thinking about like creating content for social media for like specifically for people, and now that really does exist in a way that it didn't 3 years ago, which is like
massive.
It's so weird to think about too, right? Because like at the time, like people didn't even think of like Facebook as like a marketing tool, even though kind of even going farther back, widespread threads was 100% marketed on Facebook and social media in starting in 2012, 2010, 2012. Yeah.
It is nuts to think about. I remember reading in Forbes that Instagram, I believe, is one of the biggest platforms for marketing.
Oh yeah.
Something like it just an astronomical
number
of
billions.
Businesses,
Like
yeah. A very high percentage of businesses advertise successfully on Instagram, which blows my mind because I'm not a big Instagram head.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you that it's much deeper than you think it is.
And it's funny too, because like, I mean, this is definitely not a plug for advertising on my show, but like, I definitely get like a few thousand downloads and views and watches for this. Yeah. And it's like, it's a Sioux City audience, and it's it's like a Sioux City audience. It's people specifically wanting to find out more about Sioux City. And I always like, there's a lot of businesses that could really be using a little plug or, a little advertisement on this show that, like I said, I don't really care about selling advertisements on here. If somebody was interested, I'd do a deal. We could work a deal out.
Hit the man up, Honeywave Media.
Yeah. Yeah, send me a DM and we can get to talking about it. But yeah, I mean, it's like,
feel free to send me one. I will forward the message to you.
Appreciate it.
I got you.
Yeah, so I mean, but like marketing's changed. Jesus. So much in the last few years, and I feel like I've kind of successfully stayed in front of like where the market's going and kind of been there and developed my skill set to the point where now like these new jobs that are being like created, I'm kind of like the only one in the region with the skill set.
No, that's incredible. Don't take this the wrong way. We talked about this before. First of all, incredibly thankful for you. I left high school, right? I dropped out. You stayed in touch with me. Probably one of the only people from Sergeant Bluff who stayed in touch with me. I remember when I first started releasing music, you were probably one of the first people to reach out to me. Like, hey, this was before you were making music videos, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like, hey, man, just keep doing it. Like, this is great. Keep it going. We were able to, film a music video, and then 2, and then 3. You're obviously talented. I knew that you'd be great at that. even I didn't see it coming full circle the way it is. And I think a big part of that is you being able to stay a step ahead.
Yeah.
And, you know,
well, I always tell people, like, I'm not like the most artistic dude in a room. I'm not the best creative in the room. Like, when it comes to videos, when it comes to photos, whatever the case may be. But like, I am willing to outwork the other people with cameras, and I am, like I always say, I'm like a businessman who makes money with a camera, right? Like, I try and figure out and position myself in the way to be a needed value, or like a valuable asset to anybody who's trying to do something, like specifically businesses.
Right.
But like, if I can't provide value, then I can't do anything, and you can't get a paycheck for it. But if I am able to provide value, then I can get a paycheck. And I've always tried to stay in a niche where I'm able to have a skill set that's relevant to what people are doing. So, but I agree with you. Like, I mean, I definitely am not like a killer artist. Like, I can't like sit down and like paint a beautiful painting by any means.
right. But your work ethic is fucking unparalleled, right?
Well, yeah,
It's great. It's fantastic. I kind of want to go back into what we're doing right now, right? The Sioux City Show. What I don't really know how to pose this question. The very beginning of the Sioux City Show, you didn't have a plan. Like, I'm gonna interview strictly musicians. You wanted to focus on Sioux City, right? Obviously, you've got a lot of love for Sioux City.
Right.
Sioux City 712 represent.
Yeah.
You've had some great guests on the show, right?
Oh yeah.
One of my favorites, J.D. Scholten. A lot of love for that guy. I don't want to, go too deep into politics, but I absolutely adore J.D. Scholten. Fuck Steve King. Sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had a chance to work with him personally, right? On very close private setting. Do you feel comfortable kind of talking about that? Like, just what that was like for you.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So I don't want to like get political really. 'Cause
right.
I mean, I stay out. I don't want to take a hard stance on this show. But like, what I will say is like,
I'll do that for you.
The reason I started the Sioux City Show was just because I feel like there's so many people doing incredibly dope shit in Sioux City that they don't get the spotlight. Whenever I when to tell people about like your music or like Psychedelic Sidekick music or like Dad or whatever, 99% of people in Sioux City are not tuned into like the local music scene at all. They don't care. They figure it's all trash. And I'm like, no. Protege might be the best. Might be one of the best lyricists, like top 10 that I know of, like ever, period.
In the history of the
biggest
world.
Musicians. Like, I think he's one of the 10 coldest dudes rapping, period. And you got to hear this guy, like that kind of stuff. And so like the whole point of the Sioux City Show was to like be able to give people a platform, and maybe like if one person like or is a fan of Protege and they start listening to the show, they might also find out about like Stone Brew and how they work, and then if somebody is into Stone Brew, they might find out about the co-working space in Sioux City. So I can kind of like lead everything back in these big circles, right? And kind of let other people use each other's platforms, and that kind of assumes a huge, not risk on my end, but like there's a good chance that nobody cares, right?
Right.
And it kind of like relies on, like, Taylor Grote doesn't. I'm not talking about myself in the third person. I'm using it to a straight point. Like, Taylor Grote doesn't have an audience. Like, I don't have like fans of me out there that are like, I want to find out more about him and see all of his videos. Like, people want to watch my videos because they like the musicians in the videos, that kind of shit.
That will change after this.
I hope so.
You're welcome.
And so I was kind of like relying on people doing interesting things to want to sit down with me for an hour and talk about what they're doing. And I like, right at the beginning, I had my sister on, and she had the Bon Jovi experience, so that was cool to talk about. And I had like Tyson Sanchez, who I think does great things with Degas Tacos, and has built like a cool food business, and he's like my age, so it's like really cool, like
great
young
example
hustler.
of a young entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think I had Chris Brunschwag on next, and like I think that he's moved away since. He's took another job in another market, but like I truly think what he was doing at the Weekender was like the most amazing example of local journalism. Like, he was
sure.
killing it. He wasn't half-assing, like, talking about local things. Like, he was truly invested in the scene and really painting a picture of what was going on. So I was, like, super stoked with, like, the first few guests I had on. And I, like, you know, it's just people taking time out of their day to come sit with me. And then I get a call one day, and it's from, and I never answer calls from numbers I don't know. So I must have been, like, expecting a call from somebody else
practice.
or something. And I pick up the call, and it's like, hey, is this Taylor? And I say, yeah. It's like, I'm the campaign manager for J.D. Schulten. Would you be interested in having him on your podcast? And I was like,
Yes, please.
yeah, I think I could do it. And I didn't even know who J.D. was at this point, because this was way before the even the Democratic nominations. Like, it was the primaries, I guess, you know.
Right.
It was like way back in the, I think, March maybe. And I was like, yeah. And I end up, you know, we worked it out, and JD comes on and, like, sits down with me for an hour and a half. And, like, I'm not a super left-leaning guy, and I'm really not a super right-leaning guy either, but, like,
I think that would surprise most people.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you're more than a hippie with a bandana.
Right. And I there's a lot of, I really hate, like, politics in general. Like, I just hate the, like, politician. Usually I think I have the worst view of politicians, I guess. And then JD sits down and, like, sits down, and I asked him beforehand, I was like, hey, is there anything you don't want me to talk about, like, that you'd rather avoid on this show, because I really don't like to edit stuff out? And he's like, no, go ahead and ask me anything. And, like, there was a lot of things that, like, I kind of asked him about, and that, like, I hate about the typical Democratic platform, or the typical Democrat platform. And he, like, took the questions with no problem and, like, gave answers that I was like, dude, this guy is so sincere and so genuine and so nice to me. Because I've, like I said, I've done video for quite a few, like, famous people, and generally I get treated like the help, which is, like, neither here nor there. But, like, it's not like a friendly, like, buddy interaction, I guess, or, like, you're treated like you're an employee of the person who's there, which is understandable, but kind of sucks when you're doing it. And JD did not treat me like that at all. I was like, damn, this dude's so nice. And, you know, I called my dad afterwards. I was like, yeah, that went way differently than I was expecting it to go. Like, he was super cool. And, you know, since after that, I found out, like, I eventually asked JD, like, hey, how'd you get in contact with me? Like, where'd you find it? And he's like, oh, I saw it on Facebook, and I, like, watched a few of your episodes. And I was like, damn, I love what he's doing. I love what he's, you know, like, he's talking about things about Sioux City. And JD was, like, had come back from Seattle a few months before and moved back to the area. And, like, he wasn't, like, really right when he moved back, he wasn't, like, planning on running for Congress or anything. And, like, then he just started getting more and more excited about Sioux City and, like, the things that Sioux City could be doing in the area. And he's like, what you're doing, like, with the Sioux City Show is so similar to, like, what I want to do with my campaign. And I loved what you're doing, so I figured I wanted to come on. And I was like, damn, okay, well, cool.
Thank you.
And, you know, and then after that, JD hit me up and wanted some, like, video work done for, like, his campaign. And he came back on the Sioux City Show again after we'd been, like, you know, I was on the road with him quite a few days for his campaign. And, like, I guess just, like, leaving all politics out of it, right? Yeah. I can say that he is by far the nicest dude that could possibly be in Congress. Like, you know, most of the time when you get to know somebody a little bit more after your initial meeting, you're like, oh, well, you know, whatever, you know, like, you might find out that somebody is, like, kind of a douchebag to waiters, or, you know, like, oh, this guy doesn't tip well. Like, I think a little bit less of him now. I used to think he was really nice. But, like, JD, like, the more I hung out with him, the more I was like, is this guy really this nice all the time?
Right.
Like, you know, we'd be on, like, his RV, and he'd always be like, hey, can I get you a water or something? Can I go get you anything from, like, the gas station? And I'm like, hey, man, I'm here covering you. Like, don't worry about what's going on with me. If I need something, I'll get it. But, like, he was so concerned, you know, just, like, a very genuine dude. And, you know, we usually, I know for myself personally, if I was campaigning like he was, and I had some asshole come up and, like, try and, like, I was with him one time when a dude tried to, like, throw up the white power sign in a picture, like, standing next to him. And I don't know if this has ever been talked about. I don't know if I should really even talk about it, but I'm gonna talk about it.
You've started, you must finish.
And JD, like, was like, hey, don't do that. like he wasn't like knock that bullshit off, like, or tell somebody else to get him out of there. He's just like, hey, don't do that, man. That's not cool. That's not what I believe in. So why would you do that?
Right.
And like, because the guy was obviously trying to get a photo so they could post it on the internet and be like, oh, JD loves white power too, you know, that kind of deal. But like, rather than like be angry at the dude or like, you know, kind of like be an asshole to him, like JD was like, hey, what are you doing, man? If you want to take a picture, we can take a picture together, but don't do that because that's not cool. How about we do a thumbs up if you need to do something with your hands? And like the dude was like so taken aback because he was expecting a confrontation, like where you could like argue with somebody. And the guy was like smiled for a picture with a thumbs up, like standing next to JD. And I know that me personally, like if I had left that situation and gone back to like my car or whatever, I'd have been like, fuck that dude. What a douchebag. Like, God, I can't stand those like assholes like that.
I might have thrown hands at that point.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, racism is something I take pretty seriously. Right. I'd hope most people do.
Yeah.
For the record.
Well, in this day and age.
Yeah. And, but he, like, when we got back to the RV, he, like, sat down and he was, like, distraught might be the word. Like, he was like, I wish people weren't like that. And I was like, you know, he like didn't like say anything like horrible about like the dude. He didn't say anything bad about the guy. He was just like, I wish he didn't think like that. And I was like, damn, the way this dude handles himself is just crazy. And he's like the exact same person in front of people as he is in private. Like I wasn't rolling tape or anything. And he knew that like if he would have said anything, I wouldn't have like gone and told everybody what he said if it was something wrong, it was something nasty. But like, no, he just like even in private, he's still like, I wish he wouldn't have done that. That's not a good thing to do. Like, and I was like, damn, this guy's so nice. But you know, like, and it kind of all plays into him just like really taking the time from the beginning to like give somebody who's making a DIY podcast and talk show in Sioux City like a shot to have like a high profile guest on this platform. And I do think that his episode is like the most listened to, most watched. So
as it should be.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And like my episode with him was like the #1 trending post on the Iowa subreddit for a day. So
that's cool.
Felt pretty cool about that. Yeah. And it was like all the people that were commenting on it were like, damn, this podcast is super well done for a obviously a small budget. And I wish people could see how like this, even when I have people in here, they're like, oh, wow, the podcast looks much different when you're standing right in front of this wall than when you're looking around the rest of the room.
If only they could see how extravagant the rest of this was.
Yeah, this is basically the government building, basically a White House level of architecture in here, and I just make it look really nasty right in this one corner. Other than that, it's just beautiful.
We're not allowed to step on the marble floors.
Yeah. I make all the butlers be very quiet while we're recording. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's been cool. And like, I guess it's like kind of a testament to the people of Sioux City. And like when I went to New York for that meeting, they were like, so Sioux City, Iowa, like you do what you do in Sioux City, Iowa. And I was like, I can't imagine doing what I do somewhere besides Sioux City, because like, yeah, I'm in Sioux City. Like we don't have like a class system in the same way that like other big cities do. Even like in like Iowa City, like there's the people who are like businessmen and like the people who are artists are like so separate, right? And it's like these hardcore like butt against each other communities, right? But here in Sioux City, it's like when everybody is kind of like a working class ish, and like Sioux City is also the type of place where like if you decide that you're too fancy and you go get yourself like a brand new BMW, and like people are going to give you shit about it, right? Like you're still going to have like your friends from high school that you see at the bar that like they're not going to hate you because you're a yuppie. Sorry about that. The video battery ran out. But what I was saying is
it's happened twice.
Yeah, so the only other time it happened was with Rosario. Rev, sorry.
Well, it's weird. This has been brought up to me before. Like that Taylor Grote guy calls you Rosario.
Yeah.
And you've known me
calling
since
people.
I was Rosario.
I'm like super bad at calling people by their like rap names, and like even I always want to say Jay.
No, me too. That's really hard to get used to.
I insist on calling him Jay instead of Psychedelic, whatever. But yeah, Sioux City is like the type of place where like everybody's kind of working class ish, right? So like, if you go to like Marty's, it's like the perfect example. Like there's like bikers in there, stoners in there, artists in there, rappers in there, and then there's also like business owners in there, the dudes who are like fresh out of the like just left the country club, stopping there for a drink afterwards, and it's like this whole mixing pot where people are like so comfortable around each other. And like I think that we have this the stepchild of Iowa kind of deal where, you know, people think of Iowa as like Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. We're just thankful that we're not Council Bluffs.
Right,
And,
yeah.
and like, so Sioux City kind of like stays on their own over here. And like, we have like a really dedicated people who are in like the local music scene or whatever, the local art scene, are like really dedicated to promoting the scene together.
Right.
And I think that like has really been one of the biggest helps and the biggest boosts to the Sioux City Show, is that like people are willing to you know, take their time to be on the show, to stop by, or like I've never reached out to somebody and they're like, no. So yeah, I guess it's kind of easy to get like cool guests when so many people are doing cool shit and nobody
Right.
says no to coming on.
And
Yeah.
you've mentioned before that a lot of people sort of overlook that just about Sioux City, you know?
Yeah.
They don't realize how much, like you mentioned, the Martys,
Mhm.
that describes Sioux City perfectly, just how eclectic the population is here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People are doing cool shit all over, from, you know, entrepreneurs opening restaurants or starting businesses, to the music scene,
Yeah.
to you know, podcasts and whatnot.
Right.
You know?
And here's a good example is like, I've gotten really into architecture lately.
Of course.
It's the first career I've had. Yeah, this Grand Coliseum that we're in. Yeah, it's like the first career I've had stymied by not caring about school. So I don't have the grades to go to architecture grad school.
Preach.
But I like love the whole concept of architecture. I do a ton of research, reading on it now, and like the new addition to the art center, I was like, that is a beautiful building. The way that like they made the lines kind of be like the negative for the building behind it, I was like, dope. That is the coolest add-on for like they could have possibly put there. And I saw that Plan Architecture did it, and I was like, hey, I shot like a little video for Plan like 2 years ago. It's Nathan and Lisa Keller, and I was like, I should go stop by and like talk to Lisa about this for a second. So I like did. I went, you know, I just walked into, she owns Mod House and also Plan Architecture, and I walked into Mod House and she was working. I was like, talked to her about architecture for like 20 minutes and like gave her like my ideas, and or like not my ideas, but you know, told her how cool I thought it was, and
Yeah.
other things that I like about like architecture, and how I like already have my future home, like my dream house. I already have it all drawn out. Like I know like what my couch is gonna look like and where it's gonna be positioned in the living room, basically. And she's like, yeah, if you like, whenever you want to like figure out how to make that dream come a reality, like let's get together and let's drop some plans for it. And she's like, we can come over for like a bottle of wine or something. I was like, damn, like Sioux City is so crazy in that sense, right? Like that the coolest new building in town, like the, you know, it's a multi-million-dollar project, right? And like you can walk into the architect's office that built it and like have a conversation with them
Randomly.
yeah,
like that.
randomly. Like it wasn't an appointment that I had. I just like stopped by. I was just walking by your office, and I was like, oh, I should stop in and say, like, I just kind of planned on going like, hey, I love what you did. It was super cool, and people here are so nice, and like, it's, you know, there's the Midwest expectation of politeness that
Yeah.
and it, like it's not like I have to be polite. It's just like, well, I'm a person, they're a person. Like, let's have a conversation about what we're doing together.
Right. Be a decent human, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess like Sioux City is kind of like the easiest place in the world to do what I do, and when you don't hear no very often, and everybody's kind of on board with what's going on. So, yeah.
Sioux City's unique. I love Sioux City. Obviously, got a lot of love for it. I'm at that point, that stage in my life where, you know, I went back to school, and I'm also a realist, and I know that like I'm pursuing a degree in human resources management, right? That's kind of what I want to do, I think, human resources.
Yeah.
You know, so I know that the opportunities are here in Sioux City as well, but now I'm kind of also thinking about moving away, and that breaks my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just because this city's been so good to me. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, you know, Jay, Psychedelic Sidekick,
Yeah.
gets love all the time, man. His name's through so many circles. Your name is
Yeah.
brought up a lot. You know, just there are a lot of great people in Sioux City doing great things. You do hear about the bad shit that happens,
Yeah.
but you know the good definitely overshadows shadows that. I
And,
can
like,
promise that.
The line of work that I'm in, I'm kind of blessed that like, you know, so like actually shooting things, I don't shoot things 5 days a week, right? But a lot of it's spent at home in an office alone editing. But I do like, so I drive down to Omaha like a few days a month at least, because the budgets are a little bit bigger in Omaha, so I can like dip down there. For 100 miles is not a bad drive to make twice the money you're gonna make in Sioux City, so I don't have a problem like doing that. Where like Sioux City, the budgets are a little bit smaller, but we're close enough to other things that I can find a way to make a little bit more money and make a day trip out of a job, I guess. Yeah, like even with JD, we were Fort Dodge, Ames, Mason City.
That dude was all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
With or without you.
The hustle was real with JD. Yeah.
Can't say enough about. It's funny. I've never met the guy personally. I've heard from a lot of people who have met him personally, and the one thing that's always come back to me is like, he realizes people are human. You know what I mean? Like he's a human too, so he just carries that over with him. Like like you mentioned, he's no different off camera, and apparently he's all day from the free throw line out here.
Like
Bernie Sanders can't shoot. I watched that video.
That was surreal. Like, okay, so what we're referencing right now is I made a little bit of a social media video that was Bernie Sanders and JD playing basketball, because we were in Ames and they were there together and we had some extra time, so we're like, let's go shoot hoops. Made a little video out of it, and like they were playing horse, and a lady who was running for Secretary of State was also playing, Deidre DeGier, and she's a pretty solid basketball player. She's like a high school girls coach at one point, and but like everybody, because it's funny, I'd seen JD play basketball before and I knew how good he was, and they were playing horse, and I think that everybody quickly realized like, oh, JD is all day, like he doesn't miss, like
he's really good
at all. Yeah, and like he's really really good. Like he's I guess it's like D1 basketball player quality. He just happened to have played baseball.
Right.
And like watching the look on everybody's face, like, oh, we were trying to make like a real horse video, and like we quickly had to abandon that idea because it was just like JD making every shot, and
this one, damn it.
Yeah. So we switched it up and just like ended up shooting hoops, but it was an interesting
That's surreal,
experience.
man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to witness that.
The congressional baseball team really missed out by not having him elected.
Yeah.
You know, the Democrats and Republicans play baseball against each other,
yeah.
so yeah. But yeah.
So, I'm not sure where we're at on time. Like,
That's cool.
Obviously, it's been super cool. Talking about just your progress from like just a young dude in high school making videos to seeing what you're doing now. On a personal level, I got nothing but love for you. I tell you this all the time.
My man.
I'm super stoked to see that it's all come to fruition for you, and I know there's still a uphill.
I got big plans.
You're gonna make it happen.
Plans, yeah.
I have no doubt in my mind. Now, a lot of people don't realize this. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You're also a big music fan, right?
Yeah.
Huge music fan. Top 5 albums of 2018. Your personal.
Oh God.
I've got to know.
I don't know if I'm that type of music fan. I'm like actually, you know what? I listened to. I don't even know if it came out in 2018, but I bought the Man of the Woods on vinyl, the new Justin Timberlake album.
Yeah, just bought it the other day. I'm a little behind on it.
And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard like the Say Something, and I generally hate it like when there's like country pop crossovers, and I was like, damn, this album is dope from start to finish. I can't remember what the name of the album or name of the track is, but it's the one with Alicia Keys, where I think I listened to like the first like 2 minutes of the song, and I was like, I had to get up, look at the album, see who it was by. I was like, Jesus, this is unreal. Like the duo, and he did a really good job of like mixing, like, because he wanted to make it like more of like a folksy pop,
Right.
Kind of deal. And then mixing in like the typical Justin Timberlake, like,
And he
funk,
did it
blues
really
background.
well.
Yeah, it's
incredibly
a killer.
well.
Usually I'm not like, I'm a Justin Timberlake fan, but like the 2020 experience, like okay, cool. There's a few songs on there I like, but it's not something I'm gonna listen to. Like,
Justified was okay. It's pretty solid.
But that album was killer. Other albums that have come out. Jack Harlow had I can't remember what the name of his new album is. Like Summer something, or do you know what it's called?
We're looking at
Jay.
Jay, like he would know.
I forgot what the album's called.
I think Jay might be the only other Jack Harlow fan that I know of.
But yeah, I found out about the guy this summer.
Yeah. Loose is the name of the album. Solid. G Yamazawa. So he released a new album this year, which it was good.
It's all right.
It was like in a silo, it's good, but compared to his new album's called Money Is Time. Okay, but Shouts to Durham, which came out last year, which was like his debut, was killer, and this guy is solid. He's a Japanese dude, but he's like a southern rapper from North Carolina, and has got some heat on there. And let's see what else I've been listening.
What's on the old playlist, man? That's
my recently played. I've been playing I've been going through this.
Hopefully.
Yeah, he's like I listen to Sturgill Simpson at least once a week on listen to one of his vinyls start to finish. I've gotten really into ASAP Ferg lately.
Really?
Yeah, where I don't know why, because I'm typically not an East Coast rap fan, but
right.
So first of all, I should put this caveat in there, every one of my dope ideas that I come up with for music videos or for videos in general is probably one that I watched ASAP Rocky music videos and pulled out an idea for. I think that the ASAP Rocky creative house, AWGE, that's their creative house. Dexter Navy's one of the directors on there. Dopest creative house, the number one creative agency or creative pioneers in the country. If you're at all into design and video and photo, check out AWGE. Mac Miller, dude, I swear to God, not to talk, I don't want to get this in a conversation about mental health, but I don't care about celebrity. I do not care about the concept of celebrity. I've worked with many celebrities. I wasn't 1/10 as excited about meeting any of these dudes as I was when I met this World War II veteran who flew bombers over the Pacific. That was the number one person I've ever met in my life. That.
Yeah.
That's what gets me excited, is people who've done extraordinary things, people who are in movies I could care less about. But Mac Miller was one of the few celebrity deaths that I was like,
I shed tears over the man.
Dude, we came out. He really got big in a time when we were just entering our college years. We were 19, 20 years old, right? Yeah.
I mean, just that
the Rostrum Records,
movement.
that Killer Gang shit, and I am a strict anybody who knows me knows that white frat rappers I hate. So I was not an early Mac fan by any stretch of the imagination, but he was still the background soundtrack of my college years,
sure.
right? And then I watched him turn it around to starting with Blue Slide Park was the first one where I was like, okay, now he's a musician. And then the Good Morning album.
Good
AM.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Good Morning.
The Good AM soundtrack was album. It's holy shit, this dude can make some music. Where he it was basically a soul album with rap, and his new one, what was it?
Swimming.
Swimming, yeah. That I liked it again, but it was just the way that whole thing played out was heartbreaking, right?
Oh, for sure.
And Big Black was the only other person who was really been damn.
Big Black was
that's
that
sad,
dude, man.
Yeah. Listened to a lot of Trick Daddy lately.
Doug Holliday.
I listened to a lot of 2 Chainz lately. So actually, I should include this in here because I feel like a lot of people lack inspiration, and I feel like I have an overabundance of inspiration because I stay very tuned into, and I have all these different avenues that I pull inspiration from, and one of them is the Short Story Long podcast hosted by Chris Paff Drama, who owns Young and Reckless, Rob Dyrdek's cousin from Robin Big and Fantasy Factory. He does a podcast. It's supposedly a business podcast, but it's really more of a personal development and becoming your best self and talking to people who have done crazy cool things and how their journey went. And he had a dude on the other day, Charlie Rocket is what he goes by now, but he used to be CEO Charlie, and he basically came to he rose as 2 Chainz manager, is this dude, but he was did you listen to it, Jay? Dude, his journey was crazy. He started out basically managing a couple small rap groups around Atlanta when he was 17, 18 years old. Got this girl pop group on 106 and Park, and then he's I want to manage a street, or they left him for some big label, and he's I want to manage a street artist, and we're not gonna sign any record deals, and we're gonna go crazy, and found this trio of rappers from Atlanta that were going by some dumbass name. What? Dem
Hard
hard
Hitters.
hitters. Dem hard hitters was the, and I was like, I kind of felt like a little sympathy for him because I still think Dem Boys is the greatest rap group that ever existed. You know, like Young Jeezy, Jody
Yeah.
Breeze, those dudes. Gorilla Zoe, like dude, that's
Gorilla Zoe.
a killer lineup, bro.
Yeah.
But so it's Dem hard hitters, and he's like, you guys got to change your name. And they came back, like, I guess after they were pissed because, like, this dude who wants to manage them's like, I'll manage you, but you got to change your name. And they're like, what the fuck? But he ended up, they changed their name, and they changed their name to Travis Porter. So he's, like, discovered Travis Porter, blew him up, right? And then, like, had a bunch of success with Travis Porter, and then, like, met Roscoe Dash and recorded ROSEOE, Mr. Oh, yeah, All the Way Turned Up. He said he... in his mom's basement
No
on
way.
his MacBook on a $100 microphone.
What?
He engineered and produced it. Like, it was done like on the most basic and humblest of setups. But like the dude's hustle is insane because he was, and if this camera die, I think the camera's about to die, but we're going to keep the audio going. The video cut out. We'll just explain it on YouTube, whatever. But he like, the hustle was unreal. Like how he blew up these artists because he was like, I just hang out outside of clubs. He never drinks, never like smokes, doesn't party, none of that shit. He said he's got really bad at social anxiety, but he'd hang out outside of nightclubs as they were closing, and he'd hand out mixtapes to every single person walking outside of the nightclub, and he'd do it like every night, right? And that's how he'd blow up artists and, you know, hustle.
That's the hustle.
And like took Travis Porter to the point where they had like 3 top 10 hits in a year. Roscoe Dash was like had 2 back-to-back top 10 hits. And then like met 2 Chainz, and 2 Chainz at the time was Titty Boy.
Titty Boy.
And like he's like, I saw 2 Chainz walking through the club, and he's 6'6", golden god, looked like a pharaoh from Egypt, draped in chains. You know, like this dude was, when he walked in the club, you knew who he was somebody. And like this guy, he's like a white guy from the South, so it's funny listening to him talk, cause yeah, he's got that thick Southern accent, and he like talked about like 2 Chainz didn't want him to be his manager because he's like, who's this 20-year-old kid? Like, I don't give a shit about. No, man, I got real man. I want a label, you know. And Player Circle had already, Titty Boy was in Player Circle.
Mm-hmm.
They had already come out with like Duffel Bag Boy, so he was like with Lil Wayne and all that stuff. And he was like, I don't want some 20-year-old to manage me.
I don't need you.
But then like one night he walks outside of the club, and I guess he basically used Charlie as a street team and got somebody else to manage him, and saw Charlie out there like handing out albums, handing out mixtapes to everybody walking out of the club. And 2 Chainz was like, okay, I want you to manage me.
There you go.
Like, you know, like saw that he was really working for him. And again, he's like, you need to change your name. You can't say Titty Boy, even on the radio. So you need to change your name from Titty Boy. That's what prompted him to change his name to 2 Chainz. And like, you know, blew him up. Like became from 2011 to probably 2014.
One of the most successful
he might have been the
artists of
biggest
that
rap
era.
artist
Yeah.
in the country. And so I guess like that's what got me started on the 2 Chainz kick. But what the whole thing leads back into is that this Charlie Rocket, you guys got to check out this dude, check out his story. He at one point, I think he was 350 pounds or something like that, like a white dude. And he's like, I've struggled with weight all my life. He's like, I've always had problems with eating, and my relationship with food has never been healthy. But he had a brain tumor that was benign, but he'd had it since like he was in high school. And one day he was like getting up and he passed out, and he's like, I need to make a change. And so he the next day started being vegan and changed. Like he's like, he wrote down his goals, and he talks about how like writing down goals his whole life has been like the key motivators for every success he's had. And he's like, he quit music, quit art, quit managing 2 Chainz, went to 2 Chainz, said, I'm gonna be an athlete. And they're like, dude, you're a 27-year-old guy, you can't be an athlete. Like, that's not how this works. But he like wrote down like, I'm gonna be in a Nike commercial. Nike's gonna make a campaign for me. I'm gonna be one of the top athletes in the country, doing like motivating people, like not like as a professional athlete, but I'm gonna motivate people, because he was already rich as shit.
Yeah.
But he quit music and like dedicated himself to running. Did like an Ironman in his first year. Like lost like 100 and some pounds or whatever, and ended up being featured in this commercial campaign with Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, Serena Williams, and it's like all like he made it happen. And he's like, the whole podcast was about like him, like how he transformed what he was doing into what he's doing now, and like where he gets his motivation from, and he kept it super real, you know, about like how he'd have like weeks where he couldn't get out of bed because his depression had just like overtaken him, and I was like, damn, dude, I was like, I feel that. So yeah, so and I, you know, I also want to say that too, because like for like this whole podcast where I'm talking about like, oh yeah, I wanted to make this happen, and then I full circle, I came back. Like,
there's a darker part that
I have like I tell people all the time, like I have like crippling clinical depression to the point where like I can't, like some days I cannot get out of bed. Like I like everything I love in the world, like doesn't, I can't even register it to like think about it, because I just like I don't know how the chemistry works, but like just overtakes me, right? And like so like just know that like what I had to do to reframe how I like define success and define a successful day is like small steps towards a bigger goal every day.
right.
Like
It wasn't a fucking
like,
overnight change.
yeah, like
you know?
and it's like because I still have like days where I think like last week I had like a day where I just like, I guess I'm gonna walk from my bed and go sit in the living room for a few hours and count, you know, and then like I think I sent like an email that I had to send to somebody, and I was like, I guess I did something I was supposed to do today, you know. I was like, I'll get them tomorrow, like that kind of deal. Like so like just know that like if you're, it's kind of like what the creative curse or whatever, right? Is that like you know, everybody feels like they're a fraud. Every artist like feels like they got lucky on whatever success they've had. So I definitely have that like constant feeling.
Yeah.
And like I just want like I want to make it clear, like I don't want to paint this whole picture like, yeah, I killed it the whole time. Like I killed it the whole time. Like I definitely have
struggled for sure.
I'm definitely I have plenty of periods where I'm one step forward and two steps back. So if you are also feeling that way, a lot of people do. A lot of people do. Like the most successful people in the world have struggle with depression. So it's just about finding the way to make things what works for you. I personally don't take medication because I tried it once and it was the fucking worst.
Oh,
so
nightmare.
Yeah, I just like reframing what a day can look like is, I guess, what helps me.
Yeah, and
like,
there like you mentioned, there are still those bad days. I've never like personally thanked you. We've talked about this. I've definitely suffer from depression. Like, if anyone's ever listened to my music, that's like the main focal point, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's fucking human nature, right? You're gonna be depressed at some point. Sometimes it cripples me and shit. And I feel like you sense it at times. Maybe it's like just something I do, but you have a few times just randomly reached out to me and been like, "Hey, yo, I just want you to know, like, you're a good person. Like, you're killing shit. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, here we go. You know, so a lot of love for you on that. And like you said, man, it hasn't been easy. I love that you've overcome that. And you're human about it. Like, you know that there are going to be those bad days. But just got to make sure there are more good days, you know?
Thanks, buddy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess, you know, I don't want to keep this running too long. And I guess
I got kids, damn it.
I guess we might be ending on a slippery note, but I just want to tell everybody that do something good for somebody you don't know.
Of course.
As often as you can, especially with this being the holiday season. I think this is going to come out like probably in a week or two, and just a lot of people have a hard time right now. So if you can do some dope shit for somebody, do it.
I'm actually want to plug myself for a second. I've been
Do it.
I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm launching this. So a few years ago, I can't remember who it was. It was something on Facebook. Surprising. It was like a Facebook advertisement. Like, we're going to send you a free random sticker, right? And I love stickers for some odd reason, man. It's weird. And they sent me a sticker, and all the sticker said was decent human, right?
Nice.
And that stuck with me for years. And just like within the past few months, I've sort of come to this realization, like, man, there aren't, and like, you don't have to be a great fucking person. Like, be a decent human.
Yeah.
So I'm launching a new, I don't want to call it a movement, like, you know, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of merchandise in the works that basically the principle is be a decent human. You know, a portion of which is going to go to, you know, help fund mental health. You know, that's a huge issue that we don't talk about. And I you know, I don't want to end this podcast on that note, but that's you know, a huge reality of life in America, of just life in general. You know, that shit happens. Be a decent human.
Hell yeah. Jay, you got anything you want to plug?
I know you guys can't see Psychedelic Sidekick right now, but this dude, First of all, we're all wearing plaid.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Unplanned. Very
Unplanned.
Iowa.
He's got
Peak
the dopest
Iowa.
hair I've seen in my entire
Yep.
life. It makes no sense. How are you like this? Why are you the way that you are?
A lot of water.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of water.
Hydrated, you know.
Stay
There it is.
hydrated.
There it is.
I don't know. We're not doing anything the 28th.
There is a show December 28th, actually,
Okay.
at the Marquee.
Okay, now I got to get this out before the 28th.
Right.
Yeah. Pressure's on.
Psychedelic
Still got to Mark.
Sidekick will
I got
be
to
there.
release my episode with Mark Koshin, killer. Before that, and if you're listening to this and didn't listen to Mark, you got to listen to it because he's one of the craziest artists. Like he's crazy talented. Another Sioux City killer.
Sioux City, beautiful.
Yeah, and check out Psychedelic Sidekick, Facebook, Twitter, all that shit, Instagram, SoundCloud, Spotify, Rev. Is it just Rev?
It's just you'll find me just Facebook.
XRevX712. Yeah.
He's got
Reverend Revolution in the house. Both of two of my favorite rappers. Not in Sioux City, but ever. So yeah. Until next time, this is the Sioux City Show. See you in 2019.
Love you.